Welcome to the Lead with Your Soul podcast. I'm Michelle Wright, your host and fellow traveler on this journey of self-discovery. This podcast is designed for women navigating life transitions and yearning to embrace their true selves. I'll be sharing my personal journey from navigating the complexities of divorce and blending families to reshaping my career to something that resonates with my soul. With 3 decades as a teacher and mentor, I'm here to share insights, heartfelt stories, and practical strategies. Together, we'll explore how to cultivate self-love and create the vibrant, fulfilling life you deserve. Join me each week as we dive deep into the art of living authentically. Welcome to the Lead with Your Soul podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about some stuff that's been happening, big stuff in my life and might be happening in your life. As you get older, there's transitions that happen with our parents, and as we're helping journey them home. And I've had 3 different parents that we've journeyed this with. And just this fall, it was a very profound transition with my beautiful mother-in-law. And I want to talk about it and break it open a little bit here, just the emotions and what's going on, and also to just give her a beautiful shout out. My beautiful mother-in-law was 94 years old, and she listened to every single one of my episodes. And this isn't necessarily her genre. It isn't necessarily her area where she looks for her own spiritual development or she looks for her own guidance. This was just her being one awesome human being and cheering me on and just supporting me in every way that you can imagine. This 94-year-old beautiful woman doing this. And so I know she's in heaven right now, and I know she's cheering me on and continuing to support and love me. So I just want to recognize her and recognize just that love and support that has been with me since the beginning. My beautiful mother-in-law was living an independent living and doing really well. And we are called the sandwich generation. And what that means is that when you get to a certain point, you're guiding your own children and helping your own children, and you're guiding and helping your parents. So my husband and I are definitely in this sandwich generation, and we've been looking at supporting both of them. And it's taken a little bit more of a focus actually onto our parents because our kids are doing quite well and they each take turns having needs, and we need to help them at very specific times and in very specific ways. But mainly, we've been focusing on our parents, and what that looked like over the last 2-3 years is, for a while there, we did weekly suppers because my father-in-law, he had just lost his wife, and he was really sad, really alone, and really deep in grief. And so a weekly connection with us for supper was an essential part of his healing. And then my mother-in-law, and this is what blending looks like. So this is where you can say my mother-in-law, my husband's mom, she was independent living and didn't always love the food. So she really enjoyed going out. And we would just chat and have really good conversations and connect. And taking that time to really connect with them on a weekly basis, and even bi-weekly, sometimes we would do it 2 times a week, or sometimes we couldn't. So then we'd skip a week. But they've really enjoyed it. And there were lots of stories to be shared and care to be given. And it was a real beautiful time in our lives. Since then, my father-in-law has met someone in his life, and he's actually quite busy. And we still connect with him, but it's in a different way because now we have to book time because he's beautifully busy, and that's what you want for him. But we're still so important. And with my mother-in-law, she just started getting more and more frail. So supper was just not something she wanted to do to get out of her facility. It just wasn't enjoyable. So her enjoyment was when we came to her. And then this summer, this beautiful lady who has been cognizant the entire time, very clear about what she wants, her body was just very frail. And this fall, as we're coming home from the lake, she goes into the hospital just with some medical concerns, and her beautiful heart is just not able to cope. And that's where decisions need to be made. And for her, she's cognizant, able to do that. And she was able to say, I've had a beautiful life. I want everybody to come in and see me. I want to say my goodbyes. And then I'm going to take a moment and allow myself to not have any medication and just allow my heart to go. And these are difficult decisions for everybody, and difficult decisions for her, difficult decisions as we supported her. And she had she's this amazing woman who, when she had a rheumatic fever when she was little, so it weakened her heart. And then when she was 60, she had a valve replacement, and they did not think that it was going to last another 35 years. They would not have predicted it. So she was this living, beautiful miracle. And so here we are shifting as a family of loved ones and helping her, shifting from caring now into palliative care, into helping her leave this 3D world, this life, with as much care, love, and support as she can. And if you've done this journey, you know it's a difficult one because you're torn. You're torn in absolutely loving her and recognizing that this choice for her is important, and we need to support her and support each other. And there was just this absolutely amazing moment, and just many amazing moments, but an amazing moment where I had my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law's sister, twin sister, actually, she's 94 years old as well. And we're caring for her. She's very fragile, and having been in the hospital, her skin is very translucent almost and very dry. And the three of us worked together to put some cream on her body, to change her nightgown, and to make her as comfortable and as beautiful as possible. And just nice smelling, and just everything nice and fresh and wonderful. And it just made me think the power of women coming together like that. When we have our children, it's often our mothers, our mother-in-laws that come in and just help and support us and guide us and just hold us. And as mothers ourselves, we're the ones that take care of these babies. And I just think of what a powerful calling we have as females in our lives, this divine feminine that I'm so glad is becoming more a part of our culture, more a part of our awareness, and recognizing the sacredness of this divine feminine as we care for each other, as we care for our loved ones. Such a beautiful, sacred moment. Because it reminded me of a colleague as well who spoke. She comes from the Muslim tradition. Her mother is Muslim. She's an only daughter. And she said, in the Muslim tradition, what happens is that it is the family, it is the daughters who come together. And I said, oh, but if you're by yourself, what are you going to do? It will be my friends, my close friends that will come. They will help. We will bathe her. We will anoint her. And they have a whole process that they go through. And it is this beautiful, sacred process of returning the body back to the earth. And that's who we are in this divine feminine, in as women connecting together is supporting each other through birth and through death. And now, in all fairness, I need to let you know my husband and his brother were there. And it is so beautiful because these, I say boys, they are in their 60s and 70s. They are present with their mother in every way and helping her in every way that they can. And there were just precious moments with my husband and his mother. And one of the stories that she always loved to tell, and she would say it to me throughout our time together, but this summer she needed to tell me again and then in the hospital. And she said, "Michelle, do you know about what happened when I was carrying my son, my husband, Jason?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think I've heard about it. Tell me again. What is the story?" And she said, "Because of my heart, they were really worried that I was getting older and to have my fourth child was going to be really difficult. And they were worried and they said, 'Are you sure? Because maybe, you know what? Maybe you should not keep this child. We're worried about your health.'" And she says, "I knew, no, I am not letting this child go. I am not letting him go. I'm going to bring him to term." And so she had a pregnancy. It did go well. And he was this big baby. And it was a very touching moment because she always says, "And Jason, you will always be my baby," because he is the baby of the family. And he recalls that moment even in the hospital when she's just hanging on to his hand and just saying that to him as a 63-year-old man. He's remembered as a baby. And that's just so beautiful. Just these relationships, these amazing relationships that are intergenerational, that we're offered in these sacred moments of being able to say goodbye, of being able to tell these stories. It breaks your heart on the one hand, and yet you're able to hold these precious pearls of wisdom, as I've said before, these stories that you just hold so deep to your heart and you collect them and they become, just part of your light. And watching B go through this was so amazing because she had such strength, such conviction of what she wanted. And that's how she lived her life. Now you have to understand, she was this teeny tiny, 5 foot, 90-pound lady, but she knew who she was, always. She had this light within her that she knew who she was. And even in conversations with other women her age, they were talking about one time saying, "Don't you find it difficult? There's so much pressure that we have to have the washout. We have to have this done. We have to have that done. And there's just so much pressure and expectation from everybody around us. It can be so overwhelming. And even at times, you can feel like you're just failing and it's not going well." And she said, "I actually didn't feel that way. Sometimes the babies, they were still in their pajamas. I was in my pajamas. The wash didn't get done. The dishes didn't get done. It was a crazy day. That's okay. I didn't worry about it." And I thought to myself, to have this strength of character, to really move into that sense of self, that you know who you are. And you can chit chat with other people, but you don't feel the pressure. I can't always say I've always been there in my life. I have moments when I have that. And I'm pretty sure she did too. She was just very clear about that. And it's these memories of helping people transition and loss. And it's been interesting because this loss as beautiful as it was, and when I say beautiful, because you're supporting and loving her in this way, that's what's beautiful. It's heartbreaking at the same time. And at the moment that she does leave us in her human form, your heart just breaks and grief sets in. And grief is such a unique experience for every single person. There are stages of grief. So when you go look at it, there are stages that a scholar had looked at and said, these are the stages. But the reality is that people don't necessarily go through each stage in that way because it's so unique based on each individual, their own life experiences, and their own relationship to the person that has passed. And so that's interesting because as you go into your own grief, and it makes sense when you have that wave of grief and you remember her, you remember that person, and you're having those moments and you're crying. That makes sense. So you're in that moment and you hold, I find it's easier to hold space for that. But there's other ways that I have found that grief comes in. It comes in that you wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning and you just can't seem to shut down your brain. There's just, you're awake and then you fall asleep again later on in the morning, disrupted sleep, limited capacity. You're almost like you have 75% or even 50% of your senses and your interaction with the world. You feel like you're in a buffer, like everything's in a cotton cloud just around you. And it isn't as bright or as loud, or you're just not catching everything. I've found that my brain just is so distracted. And I've found that the interesting thing is I know with my spiritual work the importance of making sure I make time and space and come down and meditate and pray or cast spells, whatever. It's just using your words to initiate, to make real and manifest what you want in the life. I know that I do that. And yet, when these big things happen, I forget all those things. And I stopped coming down here. And in fact, I hear myself and my husband and other people just saying, oh, okay, let's move on. Okay, yeah, we had this moment, we had the crying, we had the sadness, now we have to move on. And isn't that interesting that there is a real pull, a sense that we must, and isn't that a should, a must, a programming around how long this should take and how quickly it should happen, and that we should be in our right way quite quickly. And it doesn't happen that way. And I found the more that I fought against it, and I'm trying, okay, come on, Michelle, come on, let's do this. The more that I found that, I realized that actually I wasn't allowing the grief to happen. And I wasn't allowing it to go through and evolve and swirl and allowing my emotions to go all over the place. And so I needed to really remember to surrender, to fall deeply into the arms of my spirit team, to fall deeply into the arms of B as an angel, and just connect in so many ways, knowing that as these human beings, we are deeply loved and cared for by the universe, the spirit, our spirit team, our ancestors, our loved ones in spirit. And we don't always feel it. And so I stopped and I looked more at self-care. I looked more at making sure I was building that in. So self-care for me means I need to do things so that it's not so loud. My husband, he's very different. He loves to have his sports, and that's what he's done. He's moved into sports. He has moved more into really working on his music and looking at guitars. And that's where everyone is so different. And I need quiet. I need my incense. I need my Palo Santo and my candles and my really calming music in this space. I call this my rock room. So it has all these things in here that just make me happy and just fill my heart. And instead of trying to be right, instead of trying to just keep on going, I recognized I needed to just be sad, be angry, be frustrated. And between the two of us, we recognized we were actually very grouchy and curt with each other often. Different things. And that's another thing that can happen in grief is you have less patience. And we recognized and had to keep on saying to each other, we have to give each other grace. This is hard. This is hard stuff. Losing someone you deeply love is hard. And the grace that we have to give each other because we're not responding in the best way. We're not being as kind as perhaps we were. And so we have to have grace and deeper forgiveness. We have to have grace with ourselves and others around us. And we'd have to remind each other because you know what? Even though we'd say it, the next day something would happen and all of a sudden, fur would fly. And so we'd have to stop and say, okay, here we are again. We have to offer grace for each other again. And I think for me, talking about this experience, talking about grief, talking about using spiritual tools and modalities, talking about the divine feminine, which is really about being receptive. And it's about being present and supportive. It's not about doing. It's an important piece to talk about as women. It's an important piece to talk about when we think of our souls and we think of listening to our souls and recognizing that sometimes our souls are hurting and sometimes our souls are tender and we need to take care of them. I don't know if you have journeyed through something like this. And maybe, I know I've had loved ones who have lost their parents suddenly. And when you have that sudden loss, you didn't have the time to say goodbye. So there's so many other challenges that come with grief at that point. The things you didn't say or the things you did and wished you hadn't. So if you have been in grief or are in grief, give yourself grace. Give those around you grace. Find a way to surrender into the love of the universe, the creator, God, spirit, however you phrase it. Recognize that you need time and space for this and that the way you are responding is valid and real. And it's going to be unique and as long or short for every single person, it's going to be different. So know that for yourself. I had a good friend who lost her husband. And she also said the piece about grief is that in the short time, like meaning the time right before or right after, people really gather around and they really rally around. But actually, after about a month, and 2 months would be a very long time, most people stop. Most people don't reach out. Most people think, okay, it's done. That's happened. So one thing I have also learned is that when someone loses someone very significant, to continue over a longer period of time to reach out and remember and talk and connect, because that's important. I am blessed to have people in my life that when I have lost them, it breaks my heart. And that's the beautiful thing. To love deeply means we will lose, we will have loss deeply, we will have deep sadness. And those two things are true. And I know from the other losses I have had in my life, you don't get over it, but you do learn to live with it. You do learn that the waves of grief aren't as big. You do learn that these waves of grief don't overwhelm your system, your emotions, your mind, every aspect of your day as much. Over time, the waves, in my experience, have started to settle. And it allowed me to make different connections. Connections through mediumship. If you've ever done any mediumship, you will find that it is the most healing and healing form of reconciliation that is present. I work with Danielle Sarank with Spirit School, and that's what she teaches is mediumship. And in there, you can sign up, you can look it up, and you can have free mediumship there, people practicing. And I have absolutely loved that. So in my deepest grief for my dad and for a really good soul sister friend, mediumship, I would just cry when they came in. And after a while, I didn't cry as much. I just smiled and laughed as the different connections were there because I knew they were present in my everyday. I knew they were present with me just from a thought. And so now I love getting signs from my loved ones in spirit. And I love connecting the feathers. I love connecting the sunshine and the sunflowers. Everybody has a different connection. And mediumship and connecting with our loved ones in spirit has helped me. And when my loss right now is so raw, I do feel connected with B. I can feel her loving presence. I just, at times, am still weeping. And so it's okay just to feel the loving presence. And I know that she's going to come through when I go back to practicing with people and having their loved ones come in and they read for me and we share. That's what happens at Spirit School. You share the reading. So I read for them and they read for me, and I know B will come. And I don't know if you've ever seen a medium. I know Sean Leonard, he is an Indigenous medium that goes across Canada, and I've seen him over several years, like I think over 10 years, and I've really seen how he just improves. Just even going into the audience of a medium is healing as you see people have amazing connections with their loved ones. And there's just no way that they would know all these specific things about all these specific people. So you just feel that, allow yourself to connect and know that if their loved ones are making connections, your loved ones are making connections. So mediumship is definitely a beautiful gateway to healing and to reconciling with the loss of a loved one in your life. I've really enjoyed sharing this with you, this raw emotion, but one I think that's important to talk about. It's important to discuss grief. It's important to discuss loss and share it with each other and the stories that we have so that we know that we're not alone. And we know that we can reach out to each other and that this experience, though unique, is one that is shared. If you have a deep loss in your life, my deepest condolences, and from my heart to yours, I send you love. Keep listening and leading with your soul.
That wraps up another episode of the Lead with Your Soul podcast. I'm so grateful you chose to spend this time with me. As you navigate your own life transitions, remember to be gentle with yourself and embrace the journey. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe and share it with others who might benefit. Join me next week for more insights and inspiration. Until next time, keep leading with your soul.